It was a Tuesday. A boring grey Tuesday at a NATO airbase somewhere in the middle of nowhere. The sort of day where the most exciting event is, well, deciding whether to have the beef, the chicken for lunch. Generals with more medals than a Christmas tree has baubles stood on a viewing platform. Close-ups, medals, lukewarm coffee. They were here for a demonstration. Another one. A friendly display of aerial power between allies. They'd seen it all before, or so they thought. Then, something appeared on the horizon, a tiny speck against the overcast sky. It wasn't on the schedule. The speck grew fast, impossibly fast. The £68 million question, the immediate aftermath was chaos. A very polite, high-level sort of chaos. Whispers, urgent phone calls. The viewing platform was cleared as intelligence officers swarmed the area. They didn't know what they were looking for. Debris, a sonic boom signature, a logical explanation. The official price tag that was eventually and reluctantly leaked was a staggering $85 million. Or, for those of us who deal in proper money, about £68 million. For that sort of money, you could buy a decent chunk of Monaco, or a fleet of Bugatti Veyrons. You'd expect something pretty special for that price. But this was beyond special. This was witchcraft, so what was it? The rumour mill went into overdrive. An engine that runs faster and hotter than any jet turbine. Every great machine has an origin story, a tale of brilliant minds in a shed somewhere, fueled by cold pizza and genius. The story of the Kestrel, or as its creators called it, Project Ghost Eagle, is no different. Except the shed was a state-of-the-art subterranean facility buried under a mountain range, and the pizza was probably excellent. The project was the brainchild of a reclusive aerospace visionary, a man named Dr. Arian Vance. Vance was a legend in engineering circles, a man who saw blueprints in his dreams. He had worked for all the big names, Lockheed, Boeing, Airbus, before vanishing from the public eye a decade ago, disillusioned with the compromises of corporate design by committee. Vance believed that modern fighter jets had hit a wall. They were becoming too complex, too expensive, too reliant on incremental improvements. He wanted a revolution, not an evolution. So he gathered a small, hand-picked team of mavericks, aerodynamicists, propulsion experts, and software engineers. So you're probably asking, how does it do it? How does a jet hang in the air like a bee and then shoot off like a scolded cat? The answer is not one big thing, but 100 small, brilliant things working in perfect harmony. First, let's talk about the engine. The Kestrel doesn't have a traditional jet engine. It has a hybrid cycle pulse fusion core. See the pulse fusion core, energy flowing from the center to microthrusters. It operates in 3 modes. Low speed, hyper-efficient turbine, high-speed ramjet mode, gulping in air at supersonic speeds. Hovering, it engages a pulse detonation system. Pulse fusion is the key. Imagine tiny, controlled explosions, thousands per second, inside a magnetic containment field. Each pulse provides a precise amount of thrust directed through vectored nozzles. The onboard computer can make the jet dance, push it up, down, sideways, or hold it perfectly still. It's less like flying and more like being pushed around by an invisible, impossibly strong hand. This is why it doesn't need big, clumsy helicopter rotors to hover, or massive swiveling nozzles like a Harrier. The hovering was the party trick that left everyone speechless, but the Kestrel's bag of tricks is honestly just so much deeper. One of its most terrifying capabilities is something the test pilots have nicknamed the blink, because the hybrid cycle engine can switch between its modes almost instantly. The Kestrel can decelerate at a rate that would tear a normal aircraft and its pilot to pieces. It can be flying at Mach 2, then slam on the brakes, becoming a stationary object in the sky in under 3 seconds. Another jaw-dropping feature is its silent dash capability. By manipulating airflow with its adaptive skin, it stretches the pressure wave so it never becomes a single boom that lets it fly deep inside enemy territory faster than sound, with nobody on the ground hearing it. Ultimate stealth, invisible to radar and to the human ear. But perhaps its most revolutionary trick is its energy management. A typical dogfight is a battle of energy. The Kestrel doesn't play by those rules. F-35, Typhoon, please, this is something else. Let's put this into perspective. For years, the pride of NATO has been aircraft like the American F-35 and the European Eurofighter Typhoon. The F-35 is a flying supercomputer, known for its stealth and sensor fusion. The Typhoon is a brute, a purebred dogfighter with raw power and agility. The Kestrel, however, makes them look like they belong in a museum. Yes, the Kestrel has a higher top speed, rumoured to be in excess of Mach 3, but its real advantage is transient acceleration. That's a fancy way of saying how quickly it can change its speed and direction. With metamaterial skin that bends radar waves, the Kestrel doesn't even show up. It's not a golf ball, it's a hole in the sky, and that $85 million price tag is the final brutal insult. NATO nations have spent fortunes developing and procuring their fifth-generation fleets. The F-35 program is the most expensive military program in history. The Kestrel completely demolishes that argument. You can look at charts and performance figures all day, but to really understand a machine, you have to talk to the people who operate it. Of course, the pilots who have flown the Kestrel are kept under lock and key, but inevitably whispers leak out. One anonymous test pilot was quoted in a classified debrief.
He said, "Flying the Kestrel is unnerving. You spend your whole career learning the limits, the edge of the envelope. In this thing, there is no edge. The aircraft is always 10 steps ahead of you. It feels less like flying and more like conducting an orchestra of pure power. I need to be over there. And then you are. The G-forces are immense, but they're linear. There's no juddering or wing-loading stress. It's completely rewritten my muscle memory."
Compare this to the reaction of NATO pilots who have only seen the data. A veteran F-16 pilot was shown the telemetry and said, "That's not real. The data has to be fake."
The fact that it can do this suggests it also has some form of inertial dampening. The demonstration at the NATO base wasn't meant for public consumption, but you can't keep a secret that big for long. Grainy satellite images started appearing. Garbled eyewitness accounts followed. Screenshots on defense forums, viral posts on social media. At first, they were dismissed as hoaxes, UFO conspiracy theory. Then established military journalists began corroborating the whispers, citing anonymous sources high up in the Pentagon and the Ministry of Defense. The ghost jet of Ramstein, or wherever, became the biggest military mystery in a generation. The reaction from potential adversaries was telling. China went conspicuously silent. Russia went conspicuously silent. These are nations that spent decades and vast sums to close the air power gap. Their state-run media said nothing. J-20 Su-57, the silence was deafening. It suggested they were as shocked and bewildered as NATO. They were caught flat-footed. Every spy agency mobilized, CIA, MS, and a frantic intelligence scramble began. Who built the Kestrel? How many are there? And what do they want? A private entity, a corporation, or even a wealthy individual could, in theory, possess an air force more advanced than a superpower. The arrival of the Kestrel isn't just an upgrade, it's a revolution that fundamentally changes the future of aerial warfare. For the past 70 years, the principles of air combat have been largely the same: speed, altitude, stealth. The Kestrel renders many of those principles obsolete. A dogfight may no longer be a swirling ballet of two aircraft trying to get on each other's tail. How can you get on the tail of an aircraft that has no tail, stops on a dime, swivels and fires at you before you've completed your turn? This changes everything. Pilot training, strategic doctrine, air forces will have to rethink their entire approach. Do traditional air bases with long runways even make sense when an aircraft can take off vertically and land from a tiny hidden clearing? The Kestrel forces military planners to throw away decades of established thinking and start again from scratch, which fills them with dread. Escalation dominance, penetrate any airspace, disable any target, leave without a trace. An aircraft carrier, $1 billion floating target, if the Kestrel can disable its radar and air wing with impunity. The balance of power could be completely upended not by a nuclear bomb, but by an $85 million jet. It's the ultimate checkmate delivered from an empty sky.